Guys, what's Doctor. Haven't seen you in a while.
I have.
That's why.
Thank you, Carol. Good morning. I haven't done this in a really long time now. Like this, seeing real people. And I was telling Jim, boy, I'm a little nervous. But good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the South Hills, also known as Sunnyhill. And so it is today. And it is so nice to be here with those of you who are able to join us in person, and those of you who are watching us online. Our mission here at Sunnyhill is to create a more just and compassionate community within and beyond our walls. My name is Jo Hennessy, and I serve as a worship associate for this congregation. And if you are joining us online today, please say hello and good morning in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. We'd like to hear from you and extend a warm welcome again to you as well. And if you're a newcomer or a visitor to our congregation, please take the time to go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says New to Sunnyhill. You can receive more information about our congregation and receive our weekly email newsletter called Beat. Today's service explores some of the deeper spiritual and religious themes of Advent and Christmas. Specifically, we will consider how two of the primary themes of Christmas as a religious holiday are joy and liberation, both of which are sorely needed today. And our opening words were written by Scott Taylor. Look, friends, to the sky, to the stars that dance with this tiny globe on which we travel. Look to the horizon, the tree line, the expanse of wide open fields, to this living, breathing earth that makes our own living and breathing possible. Look at the faces that surround you, and notice what a wonder it is that we don't have to walk this world alone. All of it is a miracle. All of it deserves awe. May this time we spend together illuminate the astonishing preciousness of it all. I will light the chalice with these words by Charles Howe. We light this chalice to affirm that new light is ever waiting to break through. May we be open to this light and to the rich possibilities that it brings us.
Good morning. We're not quite ready for congregational singing just yet, but I invite you all to please hum along to our hymns this morning. If you're watching from home, I expect you to be singing full voice.
Good morning. Oh, look at all these people in here. Wow. So good to see y'all today. One day, there was a knock at the monastery door. The monk who responded found a rough-looking homeless person on the doorstep, wearing just a thin shirt and a pair of ragged trousers on this bitterly cold day. "Good day to you, Father," said the beggar. "I wonder, would you have a warm jacket to spare at all? I've no home, and it's awfully cold right now, living on the streets." The monk immediately took pity on the poor, shivering man. "Just wait a moment," he said, and went to his room, where his one and only jacket was hanging on the door hook. Minutes later, he was back at the door, and he gave the homeless man his jacket with no thought as to how he himself would keep warm when he had to go outside. "He needs it more than I do," he thought to himself. A few weeks later, the monks were sitting together over supper one night, and the subject of the homeless population came up. "There was a homeless man around here yesterday," said one of the monks. "I gave him my jacket." Then another monk remembered. "The same thing happened to me only last week." One after the other, the monks recalled how a homeless man had come to the door begging for a jacket, and one after another of them had given away their own jacket. There seemed to be a veritable epidemic of men in need of jackets this winter. It was nearly Christmas. The first monk was down in the town, in the market square, when he was surprised to see the homeless man who had begged him for a jacket. There he was, running a little store, nice little business, selling the monks' jackets. But he said nothing and passed by with a wry smile on his face. Others were happy too. There were many in the town who had no warm clothes. The old man, for example, was overjoyed to be able to buy a good jacket so cheaply. He paid for it and put it on straight away and made his way back home. But he didn't get far before he was stopped in his tracks by the sight of a man lying at the edge of the road, where he had been taken ill and collapsed. He couldn't have known that the person lying here by the road was the monk from the beginning of the story, on his way home to the monastery. He couldn't have known that the bystanders had already called an ambulance. All he knew that there was a man shivering in the road, sick, cold, and helpless. Without hesitation, he took off the jacket that he just bought and laid it gently around the man. "He needs it more than I do," he thought to himself. And so it was that the jacket had been given away so freely all those weeks ago, found its way home to its original owner, carried on a tide of deception and generosity, of need and compassion. At this time of year, when we are so often asked to give food or clothing or money to others, we sometimes question whether what we do actually makes a difference. Sometimes we wonder if the gifts we give will be used as we intended them to be used. But it's important to remember that the act of giving itself almost always creates a ripple effect, spreading outward to the rest of the world. And sometimes it can spread right back to us. The end.
This morning, as we've been doing the past several weeks, we have a Stewardship Testimonial. Today, it's going to be offered by our own Ed Johnston.
Good morning. My wife Marge and I attended our first Sunnyhill service at the Mount Lebanon Rec Center about 4 years ago, while the building project was in progress. We knew immediately that we would join and become all-in members of this congregation, and we have been all-in ever since. There are three primary reasons for this. The first reason we are all in is the value system of the UU Church and this congregation. Sunnyhill's value of social justice. Sunnyhill has a genuine concern for the underdogs in our society. I am so proud when I see Black Lives Matter displayed on our outdoor sign. I haven't seen that at any other church. Sunnyhill also engages with organizations involved in social justice and collects special offerings to support them. Sunnyhill's value of inclusion, the complete acceptance of everyone with absolutely no exceptions. I am also proud that we have the rainbow flag displayed over our door. This church has no dogmatic covenants to influence each individual's exploration of their own spiritual journey. The second reason we are all in is the activities offered that enhance our spirituality and meaning in everyday life. These include, for Marge and me, participation in chalice groups. At our meetings together, we become close to other Sunnyhill members, and we grow to care about each other deeply. We participated in social justice Pittsburgh events, demonstrations, and mailings. I become a member of the maintenance team, mowing team, and the choir. These events make our lives more rich, fun, and meaningful. The third reason we are all in is the Sunnyhill staff. My friends, I have been to many churches, and we are extremely fortunate and blessed to have this staff. Jim speaks to me directly. He speaks directly to my sweet spot and inspires me with every sermon and daily ray of light meditation. How lucky we are to have Jim and Mary perform and sing in their folksy style regularly. Jim's exceptional guitar playing, picking, note that I said picking, not strumming, reminds me of Peter, Paul, and Mary guitar playing. It adds so much to our services. Mary has done a wonderful job becoming choir director. Carl led a great choir for so many years and plays the piano beautifully, as she demonstrated today. Jen runs a wonderful RE program. She is kind, confident, and conscientious. When we attended our first service, Bethany immediately engaged us in her positive, warm, and loving way. Roy Simmons is competent, cheerful, and relates very, very well to the Sunnyhill members. So when it comes time for our annual pledge, we are definitely all in with our support. One final comment. We are in the twilight of our life and have been blessed with steady income our entire lives. We are financially secure and can give money to worthwhile causes with little sacrifice. We really want Sunnyhill to remain financially strong. Sunnyhill has had the strain of the COVID pandemic, a large mortgage, and a wonderful growth that will probably be requiring enhancements to our facilities. We also know that some Sunnyhill members do not have the financial security that we enjoy and may be feeling additional financial strain due to COVID. So we feel it is especially important for us to be super generous in our support this year. We also don't believe in paying interest on loans. Since we were not here when folks gave money for this facility that we enjoy, we feel it's important for us to give additional money to help pay off the Huntington mortgage more quickly. Thanks for listening.
Sing out with joy for all to hear. Now is the time of celebration. All join to sing from far and near. Let there be peace in every nation. Come hear the merry songs today. With one voice we sing together. Let all be joyful forever.
It's time for our joys and sorrows that have been submitted by members of this congregation. After each joy or sorrow that I share, please respond by saying, "We hold you in our hearts." A sorrow submitted by Anne McGrain. Anne says Sunnyhill member Megan McGee has been diagnosed with breast cancer. Her surgery is scheduled for December 23rd. Please send warm thoughts to her. To Megan, her friends and family, we hold you in our hearts. A joy from Rachel Brem. Rachel says, Rachel, and Ruth are excited to announce that a new baby will be joining their family in April. Ruth is thrilled to become a big sister. To Rachel, and Ruth, we hold you in our hearts. A sorrow on behalf of the entire congregation. Becca Dick Hurwitz, a friend to many Sunnyhillers, passed away on Thursday following a recurrence of cancer. Although she was ill for some time, her death was quick at the end. To all of Becca's friends and family, we hold you in our hearts. A joy that was submitted at the last moment this morning from Frank Quinn. Today is Sarah Yord's birthday. So to Sarah, we say happy birthday, and we hold you in our hearts always. Please join me in the spirit of meditation or prayer. How very hard it is to slow things down, to escape the hectic pace of moment after moment, tumbling down all at once in a chaotic heap. Mindfulness shattered and shards scattered all around, with no seeming purpose or order. How hard it is to appreciate the passage of time when we feel as if we're behind before we start. When we feel as if time were an enemy lying in wait, with deadlines and even death itself somewhere just down the way at the end of this short path. And yet we know the greatest gift that can be given or received is time. Just this moment, and being fully present to this moment with others who need the gift of presence more than anything else, who, like us, long for companionable stillness. In this moment of silence, let us share with one another the great gift of precious, wordless presence. Running upstairs at a frantic pace, I stop in my tracks as I see the moon through the landing window, as still as anything can be still, content and resolute in its magnificent indifference to the plight of humans, ensnared in entirely too much doing. May we remember the shining stillness of the moon whenever we feel ourselves doing too much. May we sense the moon's calm demeanor anytime we feel overwrought and frenzied. And may we return to this place of peace again and again. Amen. It's interesting to me that the character of Mary in the Christmas story sometimes gets short shrift and is often presented as merely a passive vessel rather than an active participant in the events as they unfold. She was, after all, according to the story, the mother of the incarnated God. And it is through the story of Mary that we find the first glimpses of the radical message that is at the heart of the story of the birth and life of Jesus. Author and journalist D.L. Mayfield tells a story of how she discovered this more radical activist side of Mary in recent years. She writes, "When I was 15, I was cajoled into playing the role of Mary in our church's Christmas nativity scene. I was embarrassed, stuffing a pillow under a robe to signify pregnancy, but I had no choice. I was the pastor's daughter, and there was no one else who could play the role. God have mercy on pastors' children." She continues, "My cheeks burning in shame, I remember feeling little connection to Mary, the Mother of God. I was silent in the play. Mary, in our tradition, was a vehicle for Jesus, a holy womb, a good and compliant and obedient girl. Much later in life," Mayfield says, "I was shocked to discover that Mary wasn't quiet, nor was she what I would call meek and mild." Mayfield is referring to the first chapter of the Gospel of Luke and a song that appears there that's known as the Magnificat, which is sung by Mary. But before we get into the Song of Mary, I want to provide just a little bit of biblical context about the first couple chapters of the Gospel of Luke. Those first two chapters read a little bit like a Broadway play in that people keep stepping up and bursting forth into song. In Luke chapter 1, when Elizabeth, who is to become the mother of John the Baptist, is visited by her cousin Mary, Elizabeth sings a song now known to Catholics everywhere as the Ave Maria or the Hail Mary prayer, which I'm sure many of you here could recite by heart. Hail Mary, full of grace, and so on and so on. Then in response, Mary sings her own song called the Magnificat, which we'll get to in just a moment. And then Zechariah, the husband of Elizabeth, takes the stage shortly after the birth of their son, the future John the Baptist, and starts singing a song of freedom that has come to be known as the Benedictus, which is often sung in morning prayer in some Christian traditions. In the second chapter of Luke, a character called Simeon, when holding the 8-day-old Jesus in his arms in the temple, sings the song that came to be known as the Nunc Dimittis, which has been sung for centuries by monastics as the final prayer before retiring for bed. And of course, it's also in the second chapter of Luke that we find the songs of the angels and the shepherds, much known and much loved parts of that familiar story of the birth of Jesus. So there's a whole lot of singing going on in Luke's gospel, and that's not just an accident or an indication that he would have really loved show tunes. In fact, these songs hearken back to parts of the Psalms and the songs of Moses and Miriam and the Hebrew prophets as a means of linking the birth of Jesus with things foretold by the prophets of old. The first verses of the Song of Mary may be somewhat familiar to you. My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior. The Latin name for the song Magnificat means to magnify. Also possibly familiar are the next few lines about Mary being overwhelmed by the goodness of God, looking upon a humble girl, that God is mighty and has done great things, that he is holy and will bless those who fear him. But then comes this. He has performed mighty deeds with his arm. He has scattered those who are proud in their inmost thoughts. He has brought down rulers from their thrones, but he has lifted up the humble. He has filled the hungry with good things, but he has sent the rich away empty. And by the way, the sort of curious use of the past tense in this passage, he has brought down, he has lifted up, he has scattered, doesn't quite capture the sense of the original Greek text, which is using what's known as the aorist tense, something that doesn't exist in English, but implies the already and not yet, that which has already begun and is sure to be fulfilled in time. Mayfield writes, in all my long years of being in church, of knowing the Christmas story backward and forward, I never heard these verses emphasized. Here, Mary comes across less like a scared and obedient 15-year-old and more like a rebel intent on reorienting unjust systems. She says, I loved this Mary. Where had she been all my life? Oscar Romero, priest and martyr, drew a comparison between Mary and the poor and powerless people in his own community. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a German pastor and theologian who was executed by the Nazis, called the Magnificat the most passionate, the wildest, one might even say the most revolutionary hymn ever sung. Revolutionaries, the poor and the oppressed, all loved Mary, and they emphasized her glorious song. But the Magnificat has been viewed as dangerous sometimes by people in power. Some countries, such as Guatemala and Argentina, and the British in colonial India have at certain points in their histories outright banned the Magnificat from being recited in liturgies or in public. And evangelicals, in particular white evangelicals, have devalued the role of Mary and her song to the point that she has almost been forgotten as anything other than the silent figure in the nativity scene. Some of you may be familiar with the controversy that unfolded recently when a newly elected Mount Lebanon school board member changed her social media profile picture to an image of Mary as a rebel, wearing the familiar headdress and canonical halo, but also wearing a shirt emblazoned with the anarchist logo and carrying what seems to be a Molotov cocktail. The school board member was accused of heresy, of blasphemy, of being hateful or disrespectful of a saint of the church. But what these critics seem not to know or not to care about is that the image of Mary as a disruptor of the status quo, as an advocate for the poor and disempowered, is an important element of Christian teaching and tradition. As I mentioned a moment ago, Oscar Romero, who has been sainted by the Roman Catholic Church, extolled an image of Mary as the bringer into the world of a radical message of liberation. As Romero wrote, Advent should admonish us to discover in each person that we greet, in each friend whose hand we shake, in each beggar who asks for bread, in each worker who wants to use the right to join a union, in each peasant who looks for work in the coffee groves, the face of Christ. Then it would not be possible to rob them, to cheat them, to deny them their rights. They are Christ, and whatever is done to them, Christ will take as done to himself. Words of Oscar Romero. So the image of Mary as a radical dedicated to lifting up the lowly and bringing down the mighty is very much in keeping with the teachings of the church and very much in keeping with the message of liberation as articulated by liberation theologians Oscar Romero, Gustavo Gutierrez, and Pope Francis himself. We need to push back against those who wish to keep Mary only as a silent, passive figure in the nativity scene. It's time to return Mary to her rightful place at the front and center of the Christmas story. For far too long, Mary has been marginalized, her role reduced to a bit player when she was, in fact, after Jesus himself, the most important character in the story. And I am 100% in favor of putting the Christ back in Christmas if the Christ we're talking about is the one who brings down unjust rulers from their thrones, who lifts up the humble, who fills the hungry with good things, who vanquishes the oppressor. And make no mistake, this is the Christ of whom Mary sang, the child of hers whose birth and life she proclaimed loudly and joyfully. So it is that Mary brings to us at least two vitally important messages to keep in mind during this Advent and Christmas time. The first has to do with making space for real and unbridled joy. Don't be afraid to burst forth into song. Luke would approve, and so would I. While there is much to be concerned about in our world right now, there is also much to celebrate. And without joy, liberation is not possible or even desirable. Sing a song of joy in whatever way you can. The second message from Mary is that the particular event that many of us are preparing to celebrate, Christmas, has at its heart a powerful, radical, and transformational message, namely that each of us is called to incarnate, to bring into being the fierce and unrelenting love that unseats the unjust oppressors and lifts up the humble and the forgotten and marginalized people of the world. Each of us bears the light that illuminates the darkness within and around us and waits to break free in the world, righting wrongs, lifting and healing all that it touches like a great warm wave of endless and unrelenting love. In the words of the poet Jan Richardson, "Blessed are you who bear the light in unbearable times, who testify to its endurance amid the unendurable, who bear witness to its persistence when everything seems in shadow and grief. Blessed are you in whom the light lives, in whom the brightness blazes, your heart a chapel, an altar where in the deepest night can be seen the fire that shines forth within you, in unaccountable faith, in stubborn hope, in love that illumines every broken thing it finds." I hope and pray that all of us might remember the message of Mary during this holiday season and that we will strive to follow her example of joyous liberation, proclaiming through our words and actions the birth and rebirth of fierce love, healing justice, and stubborn hope in our often hate-filled, unjust, sometimes hopeless, hurting world. May it be so. Amen. I thought we should sing a setting of the Magnificat, since I spent some time talking about it. And this particular song that Mary and I are about to sing comes from the Taizé tradition, which is a French monastic tradition. And the words are just the first line, "My soul magnifies the Lord."
Feeling now it should have been like a punk version of it.
It's a blessing when that happens before I actually start singing instead of in the middle of the song.
Magnificat, 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 Dominum, Magnificat, Magnificat,
Our offering today is putting our principles and mission into action. It is a designated offering going beyond our walls. And the designated offering is for Ceasefire PA, whose mission is to end the epidemic of gun violence across the Commonwealth and our country through education, coalition building, and advocacy. If you would like to and are able to make a gift via our online giving system, you can do so in one of two ways. You can go to sunnyhill.org and click on the button that says Online Giving, nice big button there, and follow the instructions. When you get to the drop-down menu, just choose either Designated Collection if you are contributing to Ceasefire PA today, or if you're paying towards your 2021 pledge, that choice is in the drop-down as well. And you can give by text at 412-324-3130. Just push the buttons on your smartphone and follow the instructions. And of course, you can always mail that good old check, and the address is at the bottom of our website, sunnyhill.org. And we thank you very much for your generosity. Please join me in saying the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
We'll close with these words written by Bruce Southworth. In our hungering for meaning, in our aching for friendship, in our yearning for justice, in our hearts remembering of finer days, may we look deep within the mystery of things and gather our strength. May each of us proclaim as one of God's spies the graceful power of life and love, and so may we live in hope. Go in peace.